So let's take the conversation forward with Gautam Shah that are we at the peak of good news? And if we are at the peak of good news, are we nearing what could be called as a near-term top? Or we should ignore the news part, focus on the momentum part, which is looking charged up and interesting. So Gautam, up quite a bit from the recent low, and are we on course to make a new high this time?
Good morning, Nikunja. Well, I don't think we are close to top. I think we've just come out of a very difficult phase, and I think yesterday was a thumping verdict by the market that all is well internally and structurally. And I continue to believe that the market is the best judge. I mean, of geopolitical developments. I mean, I've seen this over the years. In fact, even last year when we had a couple of events in the Middle East, the world thought that stock markets will collapse and we are going to get into a downtrend, but actually the markets were quite resilient and you had the US markets coming back strongly. And in the last 10 to 12 days, while all of this played out, I think the markets were quite resilient. And that was in a way, an indication that all was well because support levels were safe, the moving averages were safe, the bar quality was excellent. So I actually, as a technician, if I was in a closed room, would not even know that there's something happening at the borders. I mean, that's the beauty of charts and technical analysis. But talking about today, I think yesterday's move is extremely important because we've cleared some very important resistances. And if you do a sum of part analysis, look at Bank Nifty, look at Reliance, and look at IT, the three major heavyweights of the market, you want to believe that this market has further upside. Yes, yesterday was a big day. You could see a bit of a pullback for a day or two, but the bullish momentum is intact. Momentum is great. Participation is great. And I do believe slowly the Nifty is headed towards levels of 25,500 and eventually even the previous high of 26,200. So yes, we look set for that. Might take a little bit of time, but that's the trajectory.
Gautam, hi, morning. Let's analyze what's happening globally first and then we'll come to India. What is it that you're making of the dollar index? Because that continues to move up another 1.5% overnight as well.
Well, I think dollar index, to be honest, has got into a downtrend. And I think once this level of 9,900 were to get taken out on a closing basis, you could actually see a much bigger fall of about 5 to 7%. So our view on the dollar index is actually bearish. And I think that's positive for global markets on an overall basis. The three major external factors for our market, the dollar index, the rupee INR, and crude, all three seem to have got into a space which is actually supporting the Indian market thesis. And look at the comeback in the US markets yesterday, despite all the Trump talk and the tariffs and the fact that all of that got discounted in the last a couple of months, we now see the S&P 500 take out that very important resistance of 5,700. And I think even the US markets are actually headed towards lifetime highs. So I really don't see any concern globally. Look at Europe, look at most of Asia, and look at India, and look at obviously the US markets. I feel that the markets have digested enough negative news flow. They have the momentum globally to do well over the next many weeks.
Since all is pointing upwards for India and the world, tell me, where is it that you're seeing leadership signs when it comes to our markets? And let's first talk about large caps. And I ask because, what the market has done all through the April recovery since, very few leadership names, your Bharti, M&M, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank. Yes, Reliance has seen an uptick of 15%, but it's lagged also for the better part of the year so far. Where is it that you think now the churn will happen and what will actually lead the markets further from here?
Well, the churn has already happened, and I think the leadership is clearly with financial services. I think every time I've spoken about it, we've always had a bullish stance, and the way the bank Nifty has come back to test levels of 56,000 to test new lifetime highs and to sustain there. And the way some of the top banking stocks have behaved in the recent past, I think it's amazing because it just tells you that the banks can single-handedly take this entire market higher. So I still feel that the leadership is with the bank Nifty, and my eventual medium-term working target for that index is about 60,000. So there is another 10% to play for. So if the index moves 10%, you can expect stocks to do anywhere between 12 to 20%. So that's where you need to be seriously committed into. For now, the private banks, we can move to the PSU banks once there is a pickup of momentum. But as you rightly mentioned, this comeback of Reliance is actually very good because it's a big heavyweight. I think it formed a bottom at the recent low and can get a little more constructive from here. And not to forget the IT index. I think lovely rebound in the last couple of weeks. Looks like the bottom is finally in place. So if these three pockets of the market do well, there is no way the Nifty is going to see any major dip.
Where are PSU banks headed? Because they've not participated in this uptick at all.
Yeah, that's right. I think, in this market, you don't touch anything that has bad ratio charts, which means they don't have relative strength. And I think most of the smaller PSU banks haven't really done anything special. However, SBI remains a favorite. And I think it's a stock that we've been liking for a while now. No recommendation, just an observation. And I feel that if you have to play the PSU banking basket, you just stick to the top two names. The other names will follow suit. Give it time. Don't wait for them to, and don't overcommit in this market, because I think opportunity cost is huge, and there are many sectors as we speak today are breaking out. I mean, I love the setup for the metals index. I think the metals index is heading towards lifetime highs. I think the worst is over for real estate, so that's an index that can appreciate 12 to 15% from here. I think the autos have had a very big bear market in the last 6 months. They have come back, and the India UK treaty has only helped. So given all of these factors, I think there are just too many opportunities as we speak.
Uh-huh. Do you want to guess my next question? It's aha for everybody in India with that word. Gold, gold, gold.
Yeah, I think I've been a
Everybody
big
wants
bull
it to
on
come
gold for a
down.
while
You
now.
know, it's Gautam is one of those categories where everybody wants it to come down. When gold will come down, everybody will be unhappy.
Yeah, I'm sure, the gold has actually done the unthinkable. I remember 18 months back at various conferences, it was trading at levels of 1800, and nobody had the visibility that it can actually cross 3000. But I think in charts gave you some sense that a mega trend was coming. I think for now, the trend is done with 3450, 3500. I think is a short-term top. It needs multiple weeks of consolidation before it can do bigger things. Longer term, intact. Stay invested, but don't be a buyer at these prices. I think you will get a little more dip closer to levels of 2900, 3000. But I think the bigger trade for the next 1 year, which again we have been saying for a while now, is silver. I think silver seems to be consolidating, and what gold has done over the last 1.5 years, silver can do over the next 12 to 18 months. So that I think once the metal gets past 34, 35, you're going to see a mega trend there.
That on gold. But Gautam, wanted to understand, like you rightly mentioned about metals, what about IT? Because that's been one oversold sector. A lot of global uncertainty at least is clearing off. Do you think IT can get back to its heydays ever?
Well, I don't think it can get back to its heydays, but it will not go down too much. I think that itself is a win for the IT index. Remember, many of these stocks are very richly valued. Many of these stocks have a lot to do with foreign soil. And in today's complex and volatile world, it might not be easy for IT stocks to get into a structural uptrend. So while they might see a pullback from time to time, I don't think they are going to take leadership anytime soon. I think in the next leg of the market move towards lifetime highs, new leaders will emerge. Maybe financial services, which is already doing well, will do better. Metals will do well. Real estate will do well. The entire PSU basket will do well, where I think the valuations are very comfortable. So while we like IT, we are not recommending it as a structural trade for the rest of the year.
Okay. So Gautam, if you have to, let's say, make one trade and one happy trade before you go for your summer holiday, and then you will only come back after your winter holiday, what will be that trade? Go this summer, come back winter. That kind of a trade.
I think it would be metals. I think last summer that the same trade was financial services and Bajaj Finance and some of these top stocks, which worked out quite well, because they stood out, while the entire mess was getting cleaned and cleared. And now I think the metals index after yesterday's big move, chartically, it just tells me that there's something brewing, behind the scenes that could trigger fundamentally, that could trigger a big move. So chartically, I'm very convinced that the metals index is heading towards 10,500.
Give us your top stock as well over there, Gautam, within metals.
I'm sticking to top quality everywhere. In each of these sectors of the market, I'm really looking at the big boys because I think the big boys can create alpha. And in this complex global world, you don't want to be very picky with mid caps and small caps, where I think the trend is very shallow. Any volatility and mid caps and small caps tend to fall. But I think the top steel producers, I think they are the ones which we really like. In fact, even the non-ferrous metal stocks, the top 3 or 4 names we like, the entire Jindal group of stocks we like. So I think this entire basket, really, the top 5 or 6 stocks, I think all of them can appreciate anywhere between 15 to 30%.
Great chatting with you on that note. Thanks for your time as always.
Thank you. Pleasure.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.